end zone. Underthrown, McCollum, touchdown. Trey Tucker to the end zone it goes. Caught! Touchdown, Armon Benz.
Bearcat Blitz on the Believe Network, presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. I'm your host, Russ Heltman, joined by my co-host, Neil Meyer, very shortly. He's from the frontofficenews.com, and I'm from Cincinnati Bearcats on SI, recapping a blowout win, another dominant showing for the Bearcats under Wes Miller at home against Oklahoma State, 91-68, setting up the final week of the season with Cincinnati still in the mix, still alive to get one of those final NCAA tournament spots. We'll discuss that. We'll discuss a new report from Trilly Donovan, noting that Wes Miller is trending towards being safe and earning a sixth season at the helm of the Cincinnati Bearcats program moving forward after what seemingly looked like a dead-on-arrival future for Wes Miller. He has risen like the Undertaker over the past month of February, coached a top 10 team in that stretch, and it's helped him earn some needed job security entering the final week plus of the season. And then, of course, we will break down the BYU matchup, one that Cincinnati is set up much better to win this time as we assess the game right now compared to what it looked like a couple weeks ago. All that coming up on Bearcat Blitz, presented by FanDuel Sportsbook, where you can bet on the NBA down the stretch run this season. Get on the Hornets bandwagon. See if the Buzz City Crew can win the Southeast Division, which is basically taking up every single spot on the East play-in standings board right now, and plenty of great NBA action going on across the Monday slate of games. You got Houston taking on Washington, Boston taking on the Bucks, Denver taking on the Jazz, and Golden State taking on the Clippers. Check out all of those game odds at FanDuel Sportsbook, your number one place to bet on the NBA the rest of this season, the postseason, and beyond. Take a quick break, and then we'll get to Bearcat Blitz on the Believe Network after these messages presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Neil, 91-68 win for Cincinnati over Oklahoma State, a third consecutive 20-plus point outing for Mustafa Cham, 24 points, 15 rebounds, and Baba Miller continued his great all-around play, tied a career high with 8 assists, added 8 rebounds and 11 points, and the team was led by Day Thomas, who was shooting a disgustingly bad number over the past 8 to 9 games entering this one, and he flipped it in a big way. Tied a career high, I believe, or set a career high with 7 made threes on 11 attempts, scores 26 points overall. They destroy the Oklahoma State Cowboys basically just like we thought they would. This team was dead on arrival without Parsifala, and they had no chance to defend a Bearcats team, Neil, that when they hit threes at this rate, 14 of 34 in the game, they're one of the 20 best teams in the country.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the biggest thing to take away from this game, Russ, was Cincinnati continues to play inside out. Mustafa Cham, Baba Miller combined for a total of, Baba Miller and Mustafa Cham combined for 35 points and 23 rebounds. That is what Cincinnati needed to do, was really establish those two guys on the glass. And then Day Thomas having the game that he had, especially there in the second half, a game-high 26 points, knocked down ties a career high with 7 3-pointers. So that was huge to see. And it was great to kind of see Day get back on track heading into senior night. But like you mentioned, Russ, Oklahoma State team that was dead on arrival once Parsifala went down with injury. So glad to see Cincinnati continue to find that continuity, play inside and out. And everybody knows that's their identity. If you can play inside out and then you can knock down those threes at the rate that they knocked them down over the weekend, this team is one of the best 20 teams in the country if they are able to produce at this rate. They go 6-1 in the month of February, which was huge for them. But now does the momentum continue to trend towards BYU? But Russ, the biggest takeaway from this, as well as the play of Mustafa Cham and Day Thomas, was that Cincinnati firmly has their rotation set. And as this thing has kind of moved forward, you have seen guys like Sincere Harris's minutes get reduced a little bit. Keyshawn Tillery is still starting to get some minutes there as well.
It's really a
He had
six-man
20.
rotation, Neil. I
It's
mean,
really only a six, seven
only
man
six guys
rotation.
played 20-plus minutes, and then you got Zealot at 12, Harris at 10, and Sean Abayev at 13. I would imagine, I mean, Sean might have a chance to break in there, but if I'm Wes Miller, and given years past where he's played far too many guys in his rotation throughout the back ends of seasons, this is the six I'm rolling with my sword and shield on my side.
Especially with the way Jalen Celestine's been playing as well. He kind of had an off game on Saturday, just 8 points, but it
Third
seems
best
like
player on
since
the team this season, Neil. What a rise for Jalen Celestine. He has firmly cemented himself behind Chom and Baba Miller as the third most impactful Bearcat so far this season.
yeah, and that's been the most important thing to take away was that now that Jalen Celestine's fully kind of healthy, people are really starting to see the glimpse of what he provides for this team. And he has had a great month of February as well and has been a crucial saving point in this season for Cincinnati. But like we mentioned, I think this rotation, it's only going to be down to those six guys predominantly getting the minutes. And then when you look down and you see Tyler McKinley tweak that knee, it sounds like again versus Texas Tech. So that's sidelined him. For this one, it's going to be interesting to see his status in the BYU. We should know a little bit more on that aspect later tonight when the availability report comes out. But overall, Russ, I mean, safe to say that Wes Miller shortened his rotation for the first time in his tenure here at Cincinnati, and it has played dividends since making that transition. So it's going to be interesting to see what this rotation might look like tomorrow night versus BYU.
Yeah, quick turnaround for Cincinnati. 9 p.m. tip for the Bearcats against the Cougars. We'll touch on that in the back half of the show. Neil, Wes Miller looks like he's willing to be returning to the Cincinnati Bearcats basketball program. Maybe it may not matter. I mean, unless they get destroyed these next two games and then get destroyed in the conference tournament, unless you get 3 consecutive blowouts, Neil, according to reporting from Trilly Donovan on X, I'm right there with him. It seems like Wes Miller will be returning for his sixth season at the helm of the Cincinnati Bearcats, given it's a hefty buyout right now. $9.9 million to buy out the rest of his contract if they were to do so before April 1st. That drops to $4.69 million after April 1st, and obviously much easier to move on after a sixth season there. Neil, Cincinnati's played like a top 10 team in February, and it looks like that was enough to get Wes Miller off the hot seat. Not fully off the hot seat, but as close to off the hot seat as you can be sitting outside the NCAA tournament with a 2% chance to make the dance on JTOM Analytics and 16-13 overall. Albeit, Neil, they have, I believe, set a record under Wes Miller for the most wins in a Big 12 season, with them sitting at 8-8 overall now.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting too, Russ. But it's safe to say after the disastrous month of January, where the team went 3-6, that Cincinnati was able to kind of withstand the critics on the outside, and they probably heard all the noise, but Wes Miller did enough to in the month of February where they go 6-1, and he's basically saves his job essentially, especially coming with the big wins versus Iowa State and Kansas. I think that win at Kansas was probably enough to kind of sway it a little bit more, but with how this team's been playing, it's safe to say that we're probably going to see Wes Miller back at the helm for year 6 in Clifton next year. And Russ, depending on how this thing kind of plays out, I mean, there's still a chance where Cincinnati could get to the NCAA tournament, and especially if they
4
finish
wins,
10
got to
and 8.
get to 20. 20 is the number. If you don't get to 20, you're not getting in, most likely. There's scenarios, Neil, where they could get in at 19, but I mean, one of those got a lot less likely with Ohio State winning yesterday over Purdue. And we know there's going to be at least 1, probably 2, maybe 3 bid stealers from the best teams in the country who will automatically get those extra at-large spots. So 19 is probably not going to get it done. They have to win these final 2 and win at least 2 games in the Big 12 tournament to have any strong case at an at-large spot.
Yeah, and the biggest thing to take away too, Russ, is this was a stat I looked up the other day. I saw it on Twitter. The NCAA selection committee has failed to keep a 10 and 8 Big 12 team out of the NCAA tournament for as many years as I think it was last 15 years. They have had a 10 and 8 team make the Big 12 or make the big dance. So it's going to be interesting to say, hey, if Cincinnati finishes there, they get a win, they get 1 win in the Big 12 tournament and then get bounced. How does the selection committee look at that? But for Cincinnati right now, Russ, if they finish 10 and 8, which is very doable, and you can find your way into that 7 to 8 seed range, and you might be able to play a Kansas State or a Utah in round one or a Colorado before heading
That
into.
win ain't helping them though in round one. You got to
Yeah,
get that second
but
round win.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. That won't be the round one. If they get that first round bye, they sneak in, get one of those games to get through to a Texas Tech, Arizona, West Virginia, whoever that might be. It could help in that aspect. But for Cincinnati right now, Russ, the hope
Yeah, because
is
if
you
they win, I
finish.
mean, if they don't, because there's no scenario, Neil, where they win these final two games and are not a top half of the league team, right? I mean, there's no mathematical scenario where they beat BYU, then jumping BYU. And I mean, I guess they could be ninth or 10th in some scenario, but I mean, there's very few of those endings of the season results where they finish 10-8 and are not getting a first round bye. So in that sense, you would get a bye to a real game in round two, and then you would get an opportunity to win that game and punch your ticket to the dance, most likely with a true Neil. What that would at least probably be a quad one, potentially be a quad one,
Mm,
and probably be a quad one opponent in the second game of the Big 12 tournament for Cincinnati. A scenario where they are only what were they the season 2-11 in quad one games, 2-9, something like that. They have gotten those wins, 2-10 in quad one wins. They've gotten those wins on the board, but obviously very low percentage hit rate on those.
yeah, and that's the Big 12 tournament, right? So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of plays out there to Cincinnati. I know there's some things out there where it could play into their factor where they could still play on the first day, depending what other teams have happen, or Cincinnati can control its own destiny, and if they can win out and then get that automatic first round bye where they don't have to play on the first day, kind of does them a little favor knowing they have to play a better quality opponent
Yeah,
and
because Neil,
hopes.
like they right now, if they win out, there is no scenario where they're not a top half team. Because they would have the tiebreaker over BYU if they would have the same record, and they would have the tiebreaker over TCU with the same record. With unless TCU finishes, yeah, even if TCU won this week and then lost to Cincinnati, they would still be 10-8, and Cincinnati would have the head-to-head tiebreaker. So there you go. They would be the eighth seed right there, and you would get that bye in the first
And there's a
round.
chance too where if Cincinnati wins out, you get UCF and West Virginia to get a couple losses. Cincinnati could jump up even to be as much as a sixth seed. There's so much movement and so much
Yeah, they're
parity
only
in
one
this
game
league.
back of UCF for the sixth seed right now.
There's so much parity and whatnot that we're now into the nitpicking of this final week of the season where you could see Cincinnati enter the conference tournament as potentially as high as the sixth seed or come in as low as a 11 to 12 seed potentially. Who knows with how these next week will play out, but it's safe to say, Russ, right now that Cincinnati is playing their way into a top eight seed. If I had to imagine, if things go well, especially
Yeah.
here tomorrow night and versus TCU, this could be a team that should be find their way to be a top eight team heading into the Big 12 tournament.
Right. Because, I mean, if you lose a game this week, it's over. You have to
Mm-hmm.
win the Big 12 tournament to get into the dance. And if you do both things that you have to do to get an at-large spot this week, then you have zero chance. There's no chance that you play in the first round of the Big 12. So you would be setting yourself up to get a most likely quad two, probably borderline quad three first game of the tournament opponent for Cincinnati, and then a quad one game, most likely, to decide their fate for the NCAA tournament this coming cycle in just 2 weeks, a little less than 2 weeks from Selection Sunday. Neil Meyer, Russ Eltman with you all on Bearcat Blitz. We will discuss the BYU matchup after these messages on the Believe Network. We are presented by FanDuel Sportsbook, where you can bet on the NBA, pick a champion of the finals this coming June. Oklahoma City still the prohibitive favorites at plus 140 on the FanDuel Sportsbook. And then we got San Antonio at 7-1, Denver at plus 750, Boston at 9-1, Cleveland at 9-1 as your five teams with shorter than 10-1 odds on that board. Make FanDuel Sportsbook your choice to bet on NBA futures this season. Head to FanDuel Sportsbook today to make those wagers. Back after this on Bearcat Blitz. Cincinnati taking on the BYU Cougars Tuesday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2. Neil, unfortunately, due to my radio scheduling, I will not be able to be in attendance. I'll watch the game early the Wednesday morning and have a recap for everybody. But will not be out there on Tuesday night. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to see this team in person. Maybe for the rest of the season, unless we can cash a little NCAA tournament trip ticket. But BYU taking on the Cincinnati Bearcats with a 56% chance to win the game on ESPN's matchup predictor. I wholeheartedly disagree with that. I'm pretty sure that's still factoring in Richie Saunders, second leading scorer for BYU, who is out for the season. Bart Torvik is a lot more accurate with what I'm feeling in this game. 78-74 projection in favor of Cincinnati to take out BYU here, who has been struggling, Neil. And as a team, Cincinnati needs to keep taking behind the woodshed like so many teams have done in the past few weeks. West Virginia, UCF, and Arizona have all handed BYU losses in recent memory. They are 2-3 in their past 5 games, while Cincinnati is 4-1 overall. Coming into this contest, you look at BYU on KenPom, they are still pretty solid, but been lagging behind of late, 23rd overall on KenPom, while Cincinnati is up to the top 50, 44th overall on KenPom. Interesting matchup here, Neil, for Cincinnati. I think the home court advantage is going to continue working in their favor here. I think the size advantage in this game is going to continue working in their favor for guys like Mustafa Cham and Baba Miller to continue getting to their spots, especially offensively for a guy like Cham. Those over the top baby hooks, those over the top jumpers from 10 to 15 feet that he's really added to his arsenal over the past month and a half, they're going to be very available here. And even with potentially the number 1 draft pick in the entire draft coming up in AJ Dybantsa, averaging 25 points per game this season and just absolutely crushing the Big 12, 26.4 points, 6 rebounds, and 3.6 assists for Dybantsa. I don't think he's going to be able to be enough to get the job done on the road here for BYU. It's a BYU team that is terrible defensively, just horrendous defensively. They give up the second most 2-point attempts per game on the season. They are allowing teams to hit 36.8% from deep in conference play. That's bottom 5 in the conference. They're a bottom 7 overall field goal defense, and they're giving up 53% from 2-point range. Neil, they thrive off fouls. They thrive off going to the free throw line. 4th most free throw attempts per game in the conference this season. Cincinnati doesn't foul very often, and Cincinnati doesn't turn the ball over very often either. So I just don't think BYU is going to have enough without Richie Saunders in this game to beat a Bearcats team that's playing as well as it is right now and maybe finding its jump shot over the past few weeks. Give me the Bearcats here to win this one 80-77 in a close, fun, kind of primetime game inside Fifth Third Arena. What do you got, Neil?
Yeah, Russ, and the biggest thing when you look down at this BYU team, everyone is going to be talking about AJ Dybantsa, right? Respectfully so, being the number 1 projected lottery pick in the NBA draft behind Darren Peterson and that conversation there. But the biggest takeaway from this over the last month with this BYU team is this team is drastically sinking since the injury to Richie Saunders. And people forget how big of an impact he actually made for this BYU team in Kevin Young. And Kevin Young is seeing it right now. I mean, this was a BYU team who many people projected at the beginning of the season to make a deep tournament run heading into March. And then Saunders obviously being a key part of that, averaging 19 points a game, tears an ACL, out for the season. But not only does that injury hurt you in the scoring aspect, but his ability to create for others. I mean, when Rob Wright, Richie Saunders, and AJ Dybantsa were on the floor, Rob Wright was one of the best point guards in this conference. But now that Richie Saunders is out, Rob Wright's going to have to try to do a lot more. They're trying to ask him to do a lot more scoring. That's not his game. He's capable of it, but that's not his game. His game is facilitating and setting guys up like Richie Saunders and AJ Dybantsa. So overall, I'm there with you in this game. Obviously, BYU, a team that's kind of dealing with that injury bug, but Cincinnati's size is going to play a big issue in this one. Baba Miller and Mustafa Cham in the front court. It's going to be interesting to see who gets the Dybantsa matchup, Russ. And if I have to imagine, I'm going to say it's probably Baba Miller in this one. Since he's about 6'10", I think Baba gets that matchup. It's going to be interesting because this is the tallest and longest team that Cincinnati or BYU has probably played in quite some time. Obviously, Arizona in there as well, but I like Cincinnati on paper just like many others heading into this game. Obviously, BYU is on that slide, Cincinnati is on the climb. So it's going to be interesting to see, hey, can Cincinnati get a quality win? Now, obviously, when the AP rankings come out later this afternoon, I truly expect BYU to fall out of the top 25. But this still is going to be a quality win for Cincinnati if they're able to get the job done. It's going to be a late night, like you mentioned. It's going to be a 9 o'clock tip off. I'm going to be really interested to see what the crowd will look like, obviously being senior night. And that's another turning point too, Russ, is for senior night. I hope Fifth Third is rocking for a guy like Day Thomas because, man, has his career been freaking fantastic to follow. I mean, coming from the JUCO level to scoring 1,000 points in his career and just everything he's been in through, like, I fully expect to see Day Thomas kiss the seat Paul tomorrow night like David DeJulius did a few years back. I fully expect it. That guy is a Bearcat through and through, lays his heart and his soul out for this team. It's going to be it's going to get a little bit of emotional for the people who are close to Day. And I know he's probably going to feel the emotions too, but man, how cool would it be to see him kind of have a big game in senior night? So overall, senior night, 9 p.m. Give me the Bearcats here. Give me 84-72 at Fifth Third Arena tomorrow night.
Neil likes the Cougars to keep playing as poorly as they've been playing. 3-7 in their last 10, 202nd in defensive adjusted efficiency in that stretch, 333rd in effective field goal percentage allowed. Teams are scorching them for 56.5% effective field goal rate over that stretch. I don't know how they're going to overcome that against a team in Cincinnati that's playing much more balanced ball, has a top 12 defense, and is shooting the ball much better of late, trying to do the full Undertaker on that horrific January, parlay a beautiful February into a surprise March. It would be a lot more fun for the entire fan base if Wes Miller is brought back after an NCAA tournament ticket is punched, as opposed to just brought back after barely missing out once again. We'll see how it all plays out over the next 10 to 14 days right here on Bearcat Blitz. Have a great day, everybody.